It's a smooth 98.1, your love music, love life station on a hump of the week Wednesday morning. Welcome along to the Smooth Breakfast. My name is Ayokunmi. It's that time to get into the papers and take a look at the headlines that have been making the rounds across Nigeria. This is Freshly Pressed. It's an interactive session, as it always is. So we're looking forward to you sharing your thoughts with us on the stories we're talking about this morning. You can come through on WhatsApp. That is one way to get your thoughts across. 0809-444-0981. 0809-444-0981. That is the WhatsApp number. You can also join us on the live stream on YouTube. We're streaming live at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Smooth 981 FM from Lagos. Welcome once again. Joining me to take a look at the stories and give the analysis and perspective as well. Devoe and Lakunle are in this morning. Very good morning to you, gentlemen. Morning, Lakunle.
Good morning, Ayo. It feels um like like a lifetime having been in this studio for a while.
I
It's
know,
good to be
right?
here again. Good morning. Good morning, everyone.
All right. And Devoe, good morning to you. How are you in the jungle today?
Morning, morning world, morning Lagos. AY, Lakunle. It's always a new day of drama in this jungle.
Indeed, indeed, it
Eku,
always.
Eku, Eku, Nigeria.
Oh yes, it's always a new day of drama. And talking about drama, we're going to start our journey into the drama in River State, where there's been an update to the ongoing aftermath of the local government elections held on Saturday. Now, the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Yusuf, has accused River State Governor Siminalayi Fubara of inviting anarchy by disobeying a court judgment. Now, Wiki made this statement during an interview on Tuesday, warning that failure to comply with court rulings could lead to chaos and the breakdown of law and order. This ongoing back and forth between the current governor, the previous governor, where does it all end, Vivo?
Yeah, okay. Sorry, can you turn up your volume? I can't hear you.
Oh, all right, all right. Can you hear me better now?
Yes, yeah.
All right, fantastic.
So, there's been an ongoing series of of back and forth going on in River States. I think for those who are watching keenly, you're seeing the gradual breakdown of law and order in a place that's supposed to be uh, a contributor to the national commonwealth. River State is number three in terms of revenue in states that contribute oil and gas to the national pots. You would have thought by now that the federal government would have taken the matters of River State seriously enough to intervene, even though they're subnational. Um, we cannot watch law and order breakdown in River State. Yesterday, one of the dramatis personae who has always claimed that he had nothing to do with what was going on in River State finally spoke up. And we're talking of no one less than the minister of the FCT, that's Nielsen Wike, who was the former governor of River State. He came in on a news channel last night just to speak up that, well, he was watching the breakdown of law and order and he's blaming the governor squarely, saying that the governor called for anarchy when he decided to disobey the court ruling that asked them not to go ahead with the local government election, which also said that the police should not partake, which also said that the INEC, that's the state INEC commission, should not release the voters register. Now, um, when asked how would he or what would he do to bring peace in River State, his response
Mm.
was that the state governor should follow the court ruling. Now, it's easy to get caught up in the drama. It's easy to get caught up in the whole higi haga and forget the fact that how is it that even if the government of River State disobeys the court ruling, is it Wike that becomes the enforcer? He's sounding like he's the one dictating how they should behave. And this is basically what we call tyranny. This is what we simply call godfatherism. It's not the business of the people of the state what relationship exists between the former governor and the new government. And this is an old behavior in this country that has simply led to the non-development of many cities and states simply because politicians believe that they can stay in power uh, many years after their tenure. Isn't it why we have the famous statement, "Edo no be Lagos"? Everybody knows what that means. Now, my warning is to two people. One, to the president, he needs to be extremely careful because if things go beyond where they are already, with local governments being burnt and people being killed, what will happen is that it will affect our oil production. One, two, it will also affect uh, investor confidence in this country. We need to think about the larger implications of the actions that we take. It's not a movie, for God's sake. There are lives, properties, and national reputation at stake here, not just politics. And the last warning I would give is that, you see, all this reckless play and that everybody's keeping quiet and watching. Our youth are watching. And we think we're mad, right? When our youth begin to do their own madness, nobody should ask any silly question as to how did we get here. When you set the wrong precedents in play, when you allow politicians to get reckless, you turn the situation. Literally, this is how civil wars are created. Remember, we sat back and was watching a small group of people called Boko Haram uh, harass the Borno state government. This is 15 years after Nigeria has not recovered from Boko Haram.
Hmm.
We're still dealing with banditry. We're still dealing with kidnapping taking place in different parts of this country. People can't move around simply because of. So we need to be careful. And
Right.
I expect the
Right.
president to wake up on this matter, or else at the end of the day, you will leave citizens with no option than to seek self-help. I rest my case.
All right. Thank you for that, Devoe. Lakunle, do you want to share a thought or two before we go into the next story?
Well, pretty much of it has been said, and I think that I'd like to look at it from a
I
different
can't hear
perspective.
Lakunle.
Maybe um, looking at the next generation, maybe not our own generation anymore, the next generation of leaders, maybe we should catch them early, teach them to learn to know that you only have one shot at this leadership position.
Right.
Once you have it, let's go. Go home. If they need you, they'll come call you. Don't stay. I think that that's the major problem. If you look at, I don't think there's been any place in Nigeria where you've had a successor not falling out with his predecessor in the last since 1999. I'm not sure there's any off the top of my head. Maybe except that has not come openly like this. Maybe except Lagos. I don't think there's anywhere else that we have not seen open confrontation between the predecessor and the successor. And I think that there's something fundamentally wrong with our politicians, the way they handle these things. And because they know that all of us are busy chasing our rice and beans, that we would not face them to ask them why they do the things they do.
Everyone is fighting for his head or her head on a daily basis. So I guess that's one of the distractions right there. But I'm actually glad you mentioned the future and all that and those who are upcoming, because we're heading into a story coming out of the Guardian, where the Senate has raised concerns over the escalating brain drain in the country's universities and other critical sectors, calling for increased budgetary allocations to address the issue. Now, this was as President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, called for the strengthening of bilateral ties between Nigeria and the Republic of Korea, emphasizing cooperation in critical areas like security, agriculture, poverty reduction, and climate change. Now, luckily, what I would ask is, I mean, are they just waking up to the realities of the brain drain, or what exactly is all this about? Because this is nothing new. We've been having situations of our brightest minds leaving the country. In fact, the Senate president in what he was saying mentioned there are about 22,000 Nigerian health workers employed in the United States. 22,000. Now imagine that number in a functioning Nigeria and what changes they could make.
So for me, you see, this story is like somebody who's building a 25-story house. And when he got to the 24th floor, he realizes that there's a problem on the third floor and is now trying to correct it from there. right? The fundamental problem in itself is that we do not value the human resource capacity and capability that exists in this country. You would have this conversation and say that we're human beings, we are social animals, and we can migrate for whatever reason, which is valid. But you see, ask yourself, Cuba is has supposedly undergone some embargo for 50 years. Do you see their best brain leave except for political reasons? There is this attachment to your country, which is what we call patriotism. And in being patriotic, you must be seen to be putting in your best, and your country is rewarding that best you are putting in. Okay, so I went to the university in Nigeria, and for all of the time I was in university, every year there was a reason for ASUU to go on strike. Regular listeners of this show know that I am not a fan of ASUU as ever been constituted. I've always said that for reasons best known to everybody. But even when I say that, their reasons for doing what they do is valid, right? It's just that my opinion is that striking is not a solution, because they've been striking since 1991, and the same problems is still the same things we are still asking for. Now, we would say in the early 90s, we had this brain drain thing. That's where the brain drain syndrome first became so obvious, when our doctors went to the Middle East to make money. Why did they go to the Middle East to make money? Because they were not being properly remunerated here. Now, let's fast track to today. Our children that we are training, when you ask them, when you finish school, what's your plan? They will draw you out a plan. I will write IELTS. I will apply for fully funded scholarship in XYZ. They know about these things more than you think they know. Meanwhile, in quotes, a large percentage of these children gets education almost for free in our public universities. Those who go to the private universities, their parents invest so much. So imagine for someone who's gone to study law in a private university, whose average annual tuition is about 6 million, spends 5 years, that's 30 million. So he graduates, and then pray. How many law firms can pay him 1 million naira monthly or 500,000 naira monthly, so that he can say that in 15 years, that 30 million naira that he spent in acquiring the legal education, he can get it back? So those are the things that we need to focus on. We're only seeing the result of many things that we have not done. I've talked about law, we're talking about medicine, the same thing in engineering, in agriculture, everywhere. Everybody is going to greener pasture. This report says that there are some countries around us that their teachers are better remunerated. Also look at it from this perspective. When you write JAM and you score 240, 280, 300, do you see those people score those numbers writing that they want to study education or any education-related courses in our universities? Let's also look at it this way. Do you see teachers in schools today, young teachers, maybe between the age of 24 and 35, who say, I am a teacher? How many of them say, I am a teacher? Who knows that I'm happy being a teacher? What you hear many of them say is, I'm managing as a teacher till I get something better. Even then, nobody wants to teach. So if we don't find people to teach, how can people learn? And if you don't have people to learn, and the reasons these things happen are very obvious. This, our Senate president who is talking, how many of his children of school age are schooling in a public university, in a public primary school, in a public secondary school, or at all in Nigeria? So if we don't address those things, we'll keep having these conversations, right? We'll say, and it is high time we started looking at those problems so that we can solve. We won't be having these conversations about people living. We can always have that problem solved.
a quick breather. When we come back in, we continue the conversation with Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1. Keep it tuned.
Ewa, I can't hear you.
You did not hear me.
No, that's why I'm moving the system back.
You did not hear me.
No, I heard you, Lakunle, but I can't hear Ewa. Is he talking?
No, he's not.
You can hear me now. If I speak now, you will hear me clearly.
Yes, I can hear you. Okay, so which is the next story?
Should we do FDI?
Okay, we can try and squeeze FDI or what do you call it? EFCC.
Should we wait? Which do we take now from your perspective?
Huh?
Let's do FCC.
FDI.
FDI. Okay, no wallet.
Okay, okay, we can do FCC. No problem. No issue.
Welcome back to Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1. Love music, love life. It is a Wednesday morning. Ayokunmi here, and we are in the middle of the papers, taking a look at the stories making the rounds across Nigeria. Freshly Pressed is what you're listening to. Come through and share your thoughts with us on WhatsApp on 0809 YouTube. We're streaming live at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. My analysts are in this morning, Devoe and Lakunle as well. Tajuddin from Ali Masha on WhatsApp says, barring diplomacy, Wike is the judge and the executor of the Rivers State drama. Fabian from Ekwe says, Lakunle is waxing philosophical. A sit-tight mentality is in our DNA and cuts across all public sectors because there is no system in place to prevent this. The government does not value its citizens, whether lecturers, health workers, and so on. Thus, they won't be proactive to sit down with them and strategize on the way forward, but prefer knee-jerk and punitive reactions that will further strengthen the resolve to leave. We'll take more of those thoughts. We'll take more of those thoughts, but let us talk about investments, Devoe, and this is all about FDI. Coming out of the Punch, foreign direct investment into Nigeria in the second quarter of 2024 dropped to $29.83 million, marking the lowest level ever recorded based on available data up to 2013. That's according to findings by the Punch. Now, an analysis of data from the latest capital importation report by the National Bureau of Statistics, the NBS, shows that FDI dropped by 65.33% compared to the $86.03 million recorded in the same period last year. Devoe, I mean, these are not very good numbers for a country that is big on getting inflows into the country. This is not encouraging.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Devoe. Go ahead. Go ahead, Devoe. We can hear you.
Okay, so yes, basically here, MBS is just giving us a track on how much money comes in from foreign direct investments. Foreign direct investment is when foreign companies invest in Nigeria. This time, and it's measured quarter on quarter. So this time last year, we had averagely about 100 billion naira, or if you put it in US dollars, somewhere around 60. But this time around, we have about $30 million coming in, which is roughly, given the exchange rate, about 50 billion naira. Now, what that means is that people are investing less in this country. Okay. Now, even though FDI makes up a small percentage of the amount of dollar that comes into the country, recently Nigeria received loans up to the tune of $2 billion. Okay, loans that were taken to kind of stabilize the economy and the exchange rates. If you remember, the Ministry of Finance was speaking to that effect. Now, the problem here, can you hear me, Ewa?
Yeah, we can. Go ahead. We can hear you.
So the problem here is that you're supposed to be having more people invest in your country than you are taking loans, meaning you're meant to be taking more more equity than you are taking loans, because loans come with very harsh and expensive terms, whereas equity, when people are investing in your country, they give you longer term allowance and accommodate you. So the problem basically is that the federal government needs to do ramp up the fiscal plan to make Nigeria an attractive location for investments, which is partly why you saw the CBN raise the interest rates because they were trying to make the investment decision easy for those who want to invest in the country. But it's not just the interest rates that investors look at. They also look at the business climate, like the state of insecurity. They look at the state of the legal and justice system. They look at the fact that those who have invested before, were they able to get their money out? So there's
Yes.
so many factors that speak to why investors would make up their minds to bring their money to Nigeria. And if we don't work on it, this decline is going to make it extremely impossible for foreign companies to come and set up in Nigeria. As you can see, many of them are already leaving.
Most definitely. A number of them are already leaving. And I know, I think luckily we actually talked about this, was it behind the scenes or thereabouts, that the environment, it's just not, it's just not feasible. You know, governments of the day enact policies, these companies come in, a new government comes in and switches everything up. And you just think about, okay, the investments that have been made. And this is something that definitely is in the minds of those who want to come into the country to invest. I mean, it's one thing today, another thing tomorrow. Why is there never any stability?
So it's always about the idea again, and the idea that you can even easily hear it in the way we address governance and governments in Nigeria. So you hear on radio, Lakunle administration, Ayo government. Government is about the people, not about the person. You see where our leaders, our people personalize positions. So you are governor, makes then the administration your own. So everything about that administration must be about your idea, or everything about that agency must be about your idea. Nobody is able to stand up and say, "Oga, one moment, I think we can do it different." Everybody says, "Yes, sir." And when the next person comes, we switch off everything again and we go this route. You can see what happened to us just recently with that Chinese company seizing our assets all over the place. Right. It was just because one governor agreed to something, another governor came and cancelled it. And if we are serious about foreign direct investments, those kind of things, like Devoe said, particularly the laws particularly must be seen to be something that they can rely on to get them what they want and what we want out of such agreements.
Well said. Thank you for that, Lakunle. Let me do some messages real quick before we get into another story right now. Olalekan O says that he agrees with Lakunle's position that we do not value our human resource. Nigerians are not patriotic. The issue of brain drain has a simple solution. Yank off education subsidy. If we enjoy cheap education and now sell free skills in a country where people can't afford the cost of training a doctor as seen in Europe, there is no free university education abroad, thus they cannot have the required number of professionals.
So I disagree with you because yeah, education is not about university only. It starts from the primary school, basic education, 9 years. I do not agree that normally in a developing economy like ours, that basic education should be paid for. We find ourselves in that mode already. Yes, university education you can pay, you must pay for, but basic education that by the time you are done with those first 9 years, you should be able to be useful for the economy of your country. How many people has finished JS3 age 15 today are qualified to be described like that as that? If we are not patriotic, it also means we don't value our human resource. I mean, those are just basic things that I think that we need to put into proper perspectives.
All right. Thank you, Lakunle. Well, I mean, it's an education heavy sort of morning, and we're going to talk about ASUU again. I mean, we mentioned them earlier, but we need to talk about this coming out of the punch. Now, the Federal Ministry of Education has set up a 31-man panel to renegotiate the agreement
entered into between the federal government and the Academic Staff Union of Universities. Now, the committee, according to findings by Punch correspondents, will be inaugurated next Wednesday. Number one, why all this drama and fanfare over a committee to talk about an issue that has been ongoing for a number of years? And this is after ASUU have said, we're giving you a warning. They even extended the warning to go on strike, but they're still inaugurating a committee for next Wednesday. Ayo, if you were born how old would you be today? That would be 33. So this 32. I'm correct. But anyways, 30. 32, 33, yeah, whatever. Okay. So this agreement we're talking about was first agreed to in 1992. Let's put that in perspective. There have been variations of that agreement. Okay. Yeah. There have been variations of that agreement, yes, but that is the perspective with which we'll look at it from. So successive governments have pushed it forward. I agree. I will start implementing. If you look at the basic requirements of ASUU in that thing, is to say, look, two things. One, if you want to keep owning these universities, you must fund it appropriately. Two, you must pay me commensurately as my colleagues in other climes. Two basic things. When I got to the university, I didn't know that there was something called power failure or no water running in the pipes in my bathroom. I have my bath like 5 times a day. Leave the tap open. Today, it is, I'm saying, people who went to university after me. Maybe that's why there's no water. People who went to university after me will think I'm talking a Cinderella story, right? So you can see the degeneration over time. The room I stayed in the university were 8 in a room. Today, if they are 16, it's a miracle. Over time, when I went to the university, we were in my class, we were 47. In the same class that I was today in that same university, they can be less than 200. What is the adequate lecturer to students ratio in university? What should it be? What number of lecturers do we have? So those are the things that ASUU is asking for. Okay, so if you don't have money to do this, let us agree, let us sit together and have a way forward. We have proposed to you that this is how to do it. Government is not responding to them. So in that perspective, they may be right to say yes. But you see, government has its way. They can, and then our children are the ones who suffer the consequence of the strikes. Because at the end of the day, parents will say, what is it? Are you doing with this economy or what? It's affecting all of us. This is something that we can talk about a whole day, we will not be able to exhaust. But you see, governments, and I'm not talking to this government, Nigerian government has been insincere from day one as to how and what they want the university to be. They run to the press to announce this kind of things. They need to be more serious about this. Orof says, whenever they are clueless and have no idea about what to do, they set up committees, jokers. Ibrahim Zakari says, it seems like the Senate president just woke up from his sleep. Most government officials, rather than being proactive, they choose to be reactive. Sound bites, if you ask me, do not remind us of the problem we know exists. Please solve it. Let me see if I can take another one here. Emeka says, people saying the education subsidy for tertiary training for doctors should be removed are obviously not thinking it through. We'll be shooting ourselves in the foot as we don't have any doctors left in the country. Luashi says, as I pointed out yesterday, the problem in River State is all about control. The president can't afford to call the ex-governor to order because he needs his influence to win the state in the 2027 presidential elections. The governor is fighting for survival and for his re-election in 2027. The ex-governor needs to still be in control to have political relevance, not just in the state, but nationally as well. The people of the state will be the losers in this political, or is it grab? And finally,
Yomi says, Nigerians in many instances demonstrate a disconnect from a deep sense of national pride and appreciation for their country. This disconnect is seen in the way citizens often criticize their nation without engaging in efforts to improve its institutions or to contribute to its development. On that note, I really have to call it a morning on Freshly Pressed. Thank you so much for all the messages. And for those I couldn't take, apologies for that one. Thank you so much, Lakunle and Devoe, for taking out the time to join me this morning.
Thank you, thank you. Good to be here again.
All right, Devoe, thank you so much. Be safe out there. All right. And yeah, thank you once again for joining us on Freshly Pressed. Keep it tuned to Smooth 98.1. We'll get into the locker room at 8:15. Tega is in, sports news and all that.